We live in a world seemingly defined by stark contrasts: light and shadow, heroes and villains, good and evil. These concepts feel ancient, etched into the very fabric of our stories and our understanding of justice. But what if this fundamental division, this compass we use to navigate our moral lives, isn't as solid as it appears? What if the line between them is far more blurred, more human-made than we dare to imagine? The labels of good and evil offer a sense of order, a clear path. We are taught from a young age to embrace one and shun the other. This binary system simplifies complex realities, providing comfort and a shared framework for society. Yet, have you ever felt a dissonance? A situation where the labels didn't quite fit, or where good intentions led to unforeseen consequences? This discomfort is where our journey begins. Imagine for a moment that these powerful words, good and evil, are not divine commandments or cosmic truths, but rather human inventions. What if they are stories we've told ourselves, evolving and shifting through time, shaped by power, perspective, and the very human need to make sense of a chaotic world? This idea might feel unsettling, even shocking. This is the challenging terrain explored by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He dared to dissect these sacred cows of morality, not to destroy them, but to understand their origins, their hidden mechanics, and their profound impact on human potential. He invited us to look behind the curtain of conventional morality. Nietzsche's inquiry wasn't about promoting evil or chaos. Instead, he sought to liberate human thought from what he saw as restrictive, often life-denying moral codes. The shocking truth he unveiled is that our understanding of good and evil is deeply intertwined with history, psychology, and the will to assert values. Consider the weight these words carry. Good often implies selflessness, kindness, obedience. Evil conjures images of cruelty, selfishness, rebellion. These are powerful judgments, shaping our self-perception and how we view others. But who originally decided these definitions? And to whose benefit? Nietzsche encourages us to become archaeologists of our own beliefs, to dig down, layer by layer, past the accepted definitions and ask, where did this particular idea of good come from? What purpose did it serve in the society that birthed it? The answers can be surprisingly revealing. He observed that different cultures, different eras, and even different social classes have held vastly different conceptions of what constitutes good. What was virtuous for a noble warrior in one age might be condemned as vice in another. This historical relativity is a crucial first clue. Think about ancient heroic sagas. The good hero was often strong, proud, even ruthless towards enemies. Their virtues were those of power, honor, and self-affirmation. This, Nietzsche termed, a form of master morality, values created by the powerful, the self-confident, the noble. In this master morality, good was synonymous with nobility, strength, health, and power. Bad simply meant common, weak, or base, not inherently sinful, but merely less developed or less capable. It was a judgment based on a perceived hierarchy of human qualities, defined from a position of strength. But Nietzsche proposed another powerful current in the history of values, what he called slave morality. This, he argued, emerged from those who were oppressed, weak, or suffering. Lacking the power to assert themselves directly, their values became a reaction against the values of the masters. From this perspective of the oppressed, the master's strength could be reinterpreted as cruelty. Their pride became vanity, their self-affirmation, selfishness. And so, a new set of good qualities emerged. Humility, pity, kindness, patience, virtues that help the powerless endure and find worth in their collective. This is a provocative idea, that what much of Western civilization has come to call good, humility, compassion, turning the other cheek, might have originated in part from a place of resentment, a revaluation of the master's values by those who could not match their power. This is part of the shocking truth. Nietzsche isn't saying these slave morality virtues are inherently bad. He's highlighting their origin story, suggesting they arose not from a divine source, but from very human circumstances and psychological needs. He asks us to see the power dynamics at play in the creation of moral systems. The shock comes from realizing that the moral framework we often take for granted as absolute and universal might be a tapestry woven from these conflicting threads of master and slave moralities, of power asserted and power resisted. Our good and evil are historical constructs. So if good and evil are not fixed points, what drives their creation and constant reinterpretation? For Nietzsche, a key concept is the will to power. This isn't merely about political power or brute force, but a fundamental life drive. The will to power, in Nietzsche's view, is the intrinsic desire in all living things to grow, to strive, to overcome, to expand their influence, to express their capacities, and to discharge their strength. It's the drive to reach one's fullest potential, to create and to assert meaning. This drive manifests differently in everyone. For some, it's the creation of art or ideas. For others, it's building a community or excelling in a craft. Even the ascetic who denies the world, Nietzsche might argue, is expressing a form of will to power, power over self, over base desires. How does this relate to good and evil? Nietzsche suggests that our values, our moral codes, are themselves expressions of the will to power. We define as good that which affirms and enhances our particular mode of power, our way of thriving. The master type, expressing their will to power through dominance and self-affirmation, calls their own qualities good. The slave type, finding their power in community and endurance, calls their collective virtues good. Each system of values serves to empower its creators. So good and evil are not objective realities out there in the world, but interpretations, perspectives that arise from this fundamental drive to assert and enhance life, albeit in different forms. This challenges the idea of a single, universal morality applicable to all. This doesn't mean everything is permissible or that there's no basis for judging actions. Rather, it means the basis for judgment is not some external, divine law, but its effect on life. Does it affirm, enhance, and elevate life, or does it diminish, negate, and stifle it? The shocking truth deepens. Our moral compass might be calibrated not by God or nature, but by the subtle, pervasive, and often unconscious expressions of this will to power, both in ourselves and in our societies. We are all, in a sense, value creators. This perspective can be unsettling because it removes the certainty of absolute moral laws. If good and evil are interpretations, on what ground do we stand? Nietzsche's answer points towards a more profound responsibility, the courage to create our own values. He called for a revaluation of all values. This doesn't mean a simple inversion, calling good evil and evil good. It means critically examining the values we've inherited, understanding their origins and effects, and then consciously choosing or creating values that are truly life-affirming for us. Consider a value like humility. In one context, it can be a genuine recognition of one's place and an openness to learn. In another, Nietzsche might argue, it can be a guise for resentment or a suppression of one's true potential, a tool of the slave morality to diminish the strong. Or take pity. While compassion is vital, Nietzsche worried that pity could sometimes perpetuate weakness, fostering dependence rather than encouraging strength and self-overcoming. He questioned if some good virtues might subtly undermine the will to power, the drive to grow. The aim is not to become unfeeling or cruel. It's to become more discerning, more aware of the subtle psychological and historical currents that shape our moral judgments. It's about moving beyond the simplistic binary of good and evil. To live beyond good and evil, in Nietzsche's sense, means to operate from a place of self-awareness and self-mastery. It means not being bound by inherited moral codes that may no longer serve life, but instead, creating values that spring from one's own affirmed existence. This is where the concept of the Übermensch, or overman, comes in, though often misunderstood. It's not about a master race, but an ideal of human potential, an individual who has overcome societal conditioning and self-limitation to create their own life-affirming values. The overman is not defined by adherence to external good, but by the strength to define value for themselves, to say yes to life in all its complexity, its joys and its suffering. It's about becoming the author of one's own moral story. This is a difficult path, demanding courage, honesty, and a willingness to stand apart from the crowd. It means taking full responsibility for the values one lives by, rather than passively accepting them from tradition or society. So what does this shocking truth mean for you in your daily life? It's an invitation to question. When you label something good or evil, pause and ask, by whose standard? What purpose does this judgment serve? Are your values truly your own, chosen consciously? Or are they echoes of past authorities, societal pressures, or unexamined fears? This inquiry isn't about discarding all existing morality, but about making it a conscious, personal, and evolving commitment. Nietzsche's philosophy challenges us to be more awake to the often hidden origins and effects of our moral beliefs. It's a call to intellectual honesty and a more robust, individual engagement with the project of living a meaningful life. The idea that good isn't an absolute can feel like losing an anchor. Many fear that without fixed moral laws, society would descend into chaos. But Nietzsche suggests a different possibility, a stronger, more authentic individual. He wasn't advocating for nihilism, the belief that nothing matters. Quite the opposite. He saw the creation of value as the highest human activity. If old values are dead or dying, it becomes our task to create new ones that better serve life. This revaluation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. As we grow and learn, as society evolves, our understanding of what affirms life may also change. It requires constant vigilance and a willingness to adapt. Consider how societal views on certain issues have changed dramatically over centuries or even decades. What was once considered good or normal can become questionable, and vice versa. This demonstrates the fluid, constructed nature of many moral stances. Nietzsche invites you to be an artist of your own life, consciously choosing the colors, textures, and forms of your ethical framework. Not by whimsy, but by a deep, honest assessment of what truly leads to flourishing for yourself, and by extension, for a healthier world. This doesn't mean rejecting compassion or kindness. Instead, it might mean grounding these qualities in genuine strength and free choice, rather than obligation or fear of judgment. An act of kindness freely given from a place of power has a different quality. The shock is perhaps the realization of our own complicity in upholding moral systems without questioning them. We are often passive inheritors rather than active creators or examiners of our values. Nietzsche calls for an active stance. He challenges the comfort of herd morality, the tendency to adopt the values of the group without critical thought, simply because it's easier or safer. True individuality for Nietzsche requires the courage to think for oneself, especially on moral matters. This perspective can be incredibly empowering. It means you are not merely a subject of moral laws, but a potential shaper of them, at least within your own sphere of life. Your interpretations and choices matter. Ask yourself, what beliefs about good and bad do I hold that limit my potential or the potential of others? Are there inherited virtues that actually make me feel weaker, less alive, less authentic? Nietzsche's philosophy is not a comfortable one. It pushes us out of our moral complacency. It demands that we engage with life more fully, more consciously, and take responsibility for the meaning we create. The truth here is not a new set of commandments to replace the old. It is the truth of our freedom and our burden, to define value in a world that does not provide it ready-made. This is the ultimate creative act. So when you encounter moral dilemmas or observe societal judgments, try to see them through this Nietzschean lens. Look for the underlying assertions of power, the historical currents, the human needs and fears that might be shaping them. This doesn't mean becoming cynical. It means becoming wiser, more discerning. It allows for a deeper understanding of human nature and the complex dance of values that shapes our world. The fear of relativism, that if there are no absolutes, anything goes, is a common reaction. But Nietzsche's emphasis is on creating higher values, values that are more life-affirming, more conducive to human flourishing and strength, not a descent into chaos. Understanding that good and evil, our constructs, can be incredibly liberating. It frees you from the guilt and shame often associated with not perfectly adhering to rigid, externally imposed moral codes. It allows for greater self-compassion. If you stumble, it's not necessarily a sign of inherent evil, but perhaps a sign that your current values or strategies are not serving your growth or are in conflict. This freedom also brings a profound responsibility. If you are the primary source of your values, then you are also responsible for their consequences, for how they impact your life and the lives of those around you. Nietzsche's call is to honesty. Be honest about your motivations. Be honest about what truly makes you feel strong, alive, and expansive, versus what makes you feel diminished or resentful. Your authentic feelings are a guide. This doesn't mean indulging every whim. The will to power also involves self-mastery, discipline, and shaping oneself towards a chosen ideal. It's about channeling your energies constructively, not dissipating them. Consider areas in your life where you feel constrained by a sense of should or ought. Where do these commands come from? Do they align with your deepest sense of what it means to live well and fully? The shocking truth isn't a destination, but a new way of journeying. It's about engaging with moral questions actively, not passively accepting inherited answers. It's about becoming a conscious participant in the creation of meaning. This perspective encourages a more nuanced view of others. Instead of quick judgment, it invites curiosity about the values and perspectives that drive their actions, even when those actions seem alien or bad. It challenges us to move beyond simplistic hero-villain narratives and see the complex interplay of human drives and historical contexts. Everyone is, in their own way, striving to assert their will to power, to find meaning and value. The goal of this understanding is not to make you Nietzschean in a dogmatic sense, but to arm you with a powerful tool for critical thinking and self-exploration. Use these ideas to refine your own philosophy of life. When you feel a strong moral conviction, ask, is this conviction born from strength, from a life-affirming stance? Or does it perhaps stem from fear, resentment, or a desire to control or diminish others? Embracing this perspective can lead to a greater sense of personal agency. You are not just a pawn in a preordained moral game. You are a player capable of shaping your own moves, your own strategy, based on values you consciously affirm. This is not an easy path. Questioning deeply ingrained beliefs can be uncomfortable, even frightening. It requires intellectual courage and a willingness to tolerate ambiguity as you forge your own understanding. But the reward is a more authentic, robust, and ultimately more joyful engagement with life. It is the joy of self-creation, of living in accordance with values that genuinely resonate with your deepest self. So the shocking truth about good and evil is that their power over us is largely derived from our unquestioning acceptance. Once we begin to examine their roots, their history, their psychological underpinnings, we reclaim a measure of our own power. This journey of revaluation is personal. What affirms life for one may differ for another. Nietzsche championed individualism, not in a selfish sense, but in the sense of each person striving to reach their own unique peak of potential. He encourages us to be experiments of the seeker of knowledge, to test values, to see how they live in us, to be willing to discard what no longer serves our growth, and to bravely embrace new, life-enhancing perspectives. The world is not black and white. It is a vast spectrum of shades, interpretations, and possibilities. Nietzsche's work invites us to see this richness, to embrace complexity, and to find our own vibrant color within it. Ultimately, the shock might be the profound realization of human freedom. Freedom from externally imposed moral absolutes, and the corresponding freedom and responsibility to create meaning for ourselves. So let the old certainties crumble if they must. From their dust, you have the chance to build something truer, something more aligned with your own highest aspirations for a courageous, examined, and passionately lived life. This understanding of good and evil is not a license for cruelty or disregard for others. Instead, it's a call for a deeper ethical engagement, one rooted in self-awareness and a conscious choice to affirm life-enhancing values. When your values are your own, they carry more weight. A practical step: next time you make a moral judgment or feel one arising, simply ask, why? Trace it back. Is it a learned response, a genuine conviction, or something else? This simple inquiry begins the process of revaluation. The shocking truth isn't meant to leave you adrift, but to empower you. By understanding the human origins of morality, you gain the perspective to navigate life's complexities with greater wisdom and intentionality. You become the captain of your moral ship. Nietzsche's challenge isn't to abandon morality, but to elevate it, to make it a conscious, personal, and dynamic creation. The values you forge in the fire of your own experience will be far more powerful and authentic than those passively inherited. The journey beyond conventional good and evil is ongoing. It's a continuous process of questioning, learning, and choosing values that foster strength, growth, and a profound yes to the adventure of life. Embrace this remarkable human capacity.